Hello everyone, welcome to a new project I've been working on for a while. This is a game project based on an older project of mine called sort of a sequel to an older project of mine called Hibernia, which was a strategy game set in ancient Ireland, and you basically picked a faction, started off with a bit of land, and then you had to trade, craft and grow your kingdom basically, and you won with score. But this is totally not like that though. This is a 3D RPG, but it will still be set in ancient Ireland. It will have more of a story and lots of things like that. It's my intention for the design behind this game is largely inspired by two of the earlier Elder Scrolls games, Daggerfall and Morrowind. Morrowind I played a lot when I was a kid. It came out in 2002, and I think I literally got it that year. I didn't buy it; I actually got it given it. So that was quite cool. But yeah, I fell in love with that game, and I played it all the time, and I still play it now. Obviously, now I have to play it through OpenMW, but yeah, it works, and that's a better engine because you get much better view distance and all that stuff. But yeah, Morrowind is my main inspiration for the aesthetic here, and it'll be for combat and all that stuff. It was a lot more natural, although most people wouldn't say that about Morrowind's combat, but it was a lot more natural compared to Daggerfall's. Yeah, so the aesthetic is to actually make it feel like a wild world. Like if you go out in the wilderness, you are in danger, which you never really got in like Oblivion or Skyrim. It never really felt dangerous outside. It just wasn't scary. But Morrowind, I don't think it was just because I was a kid either. I think Morrowind was just genuinely scary. It was a lot more nerve-wracking going anywhere because you did not know if you could fight your way out of it. But yeah, I want to sort of create that feeling because I know I just enjoyed that so much. And as for Daggerfall inspiration, Daggerfall was interesting because a lot of it was procedurally generated. It literally still maintains one of the biggest in-game worlds ever made. Even the thing is, it's kind of a cheat because while it is a massive world, most of what's actually in that world is procedurally generated and samey. It's all the same stuff. But yeah, it does procedurally generate the quests, dungeons, characters, towns, all that stuff, and that's really neat. So I'm trying to do a little bit of that as well. Let me zoom out here so you can see a little bit more of this world. This is running in Chrome at the moment, so it's a WebGL game written in JavaScript, using my own engine for handling WebGL stuff, handling geometries and all that stuff, and sending it all to the GPU. That's all my own engine, which I've been working on for months actually, but most of the terrain stuff has just happened in the last 2 weeks while I've been working on this project. But yeah, let's get back out here and have a look. So as for the map, so the map is hand drawn. It's not this size. There's doing some interesting things with it. It's not actually to this scale, but it does define where a mountain is, where the sea is, where land is, where where trees are and other stuff, and even where towns and fields are. So if you can see down here, got some very tall fields and some placeholder buildings. So actually on the actual map, this is defined by just 3 pixels, but once it generates, this is turned into 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pixels, 9 buildings. So yeah, that's sort of where I'm going with in terms of generation. I'll show you the map in a second, but yeah, the map is pretty big. This is actually 4 times larger than the one I drew, and yeah, you can quite happily just go through it. As for trying to make it seem like quite a wild world, I've added a lot of trees. Most games don't seem to have a lot of trees. I don't know. I mean, Well, those games didn't anyway. But yeah, so I like the idea of having a forest that you actually can't see through. You have to, if you want to see what's on the other side, you have to go through it. So that's something I'm trying to do as well. Obviously, these are just cross-section billboards at the moment. They're nothing special. But I will have some proper ones. Yeah, so that's what running around the world looks like. If you look carefully, you can see some, like here, you can see the seams. If you look carefully, or here while I'm moving, that's the terrain LOD, level of detail. I'll show you how that works in a sec as well. But basically, the terrain geometry isn't set. It's actually just a flat plane, and I actually pass the height map to the vertex shader, and wherever you put the plane, it generates that part of the terrain. So it's like whatever the terrain is, even if this was like 20 times bigger, it would still maintain the same number of triangles of vertices, because it's basically just pulled from the height map as needed. But yeah, I'll show you the actual map this is derived from. So this is what the map looks like. As you can see, it doesn't contain heights or anything, it just contains like terrain types. So we have obviously sea, water. There's actually no distinction between these yet, but maybe there will be. Mountains, two different types of trees. So you have woodland and forest. So forest is denser. Here you can see towns are in red. Pink is meant to be a port. It's the same as a town at the moment. Yellow is the fields. Grey mountains. Light grey is actually hills. It works the same way as mountains, but it's just a shallower height, which makes it easier to design some areas. Like this area here, I really wanted it just to be a sort of like more of a dome hill rather than a mountain. Just so that if you're like standing here, you can't see on the other side of it. Makes each valley, or each valley seem like a sort of more localized area. Yeah, and we got here some swamps. They're not actually implemented yet. And paths. Haven't got paths yet. Yeah, I'll show you like this area here where we are. You can see this big lake and this town and an island. This area is actually this here. So where we see like these bits of town here and these mountains, that actually all becomes this. So you got these fields, little town there, and there's a lot more detail is added to the mountains, and their height is actually stretched out a lot more. If I can find a good example of that, like here, I guess you see the hill slopes outward a lot more, and it actually adds height to the surrounding areas that are actually flat on the type map. So that makes the world feel a bit more alive. Like this is on the terrain map, this is all flat, but obviously you can see it's developed some height to it. And this is the dome hill I was talking about. It's probably a bit drastic there at the moment, but yeah, you can't see on the other side of it, and that was the main goal. Yeah, I'm trying to get a few like little areas that have these just epic scenes. So here's looking down at a village and just seeing all the fields and the mountains silhouetted in the background. So yeah, that was the type data. Obviously, I haven't got the paths in there yet. That's like the way it builds the terrain. Is it scales it up by, at the moment it's 4 times, but it's actually kind of arbitrary how many times you scale it. It's just a matter of how long it takes to generate. But yeah, it's scaled up by 4 times. Some areas are transferred, translated into height, and then it's blurred, and all sorts of filtering passes are done on it to try and generate from this basic data something that actually looks like a real landscape. And that's all combined into a height map. And that height map is actually uses all 4 channels for different things. Like the alpha channel is actually, the alpha channel is actually the height. The RGB channels are used for normal data. So the normal data is what is used for generating the lighting, and it's also used to generate the textures. So it's used to work out the slopes in certain areas, and if it's a steep slope, it will put a mountain there instead, or put a mountain texture there. I'll try and explain that more in a later video. I'll probably do like a presentation on it and show a step by step of how that's being produced, because I think that's the more interesting aspect of this terrain at the moment, is how it's generated, but it's difficult to show off. As for the terrain, how the terrain works, I can give you a quick example of that. So you see here, actually, just basically ignore the code, but basically there's layers, and at the moment it's using 3 layers, but if I set that to 1 or something, it will just use the existing layer. And so there'll be no layers, it will just use the high detail terrain that's directly around the camera. Let me just build this. I haven't got this set up to be automatic or anything, because I don't usually change the engine that often. The graphics engine that I'm building, actually. But the game itself is separate, that doesn't need to be recompiled or anything. Anyway, ignore that. Let's refresh this. And it should just be the small area around the camera. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it's basically not a fixed location, it just streams it. So wherever you put the plane, it will derive the correct data from the height map and just build it on the go. So this means I can have a predictable number of triangles, at least with the terrain. So like when I first done this terrain, it had, you see I actually count vertices and triangles here. It had something like 11 million vertices and 6.2 million triangles, and it was running at 30 frames max. It was not good. But when I introduced the terrain LOD system, working like this, it requires far less data to be passed to the shaders, and obviously because it's predictable and it has the terrain LOD, it actually gets less detailed in the distance. It actually uses the same, so this is actually 4 planes, so it uses 4 planes generated around a camera, but every layer is actually 1 plane. So it's the same plane, same model is used over here, but because it's stretched, it's actually lower detail, and it just generates one of them all around this, and then again all around that, scaling up each time, making it a lower resolution. But yeah, that means you can get a predictable number of triangles in the scene. And yeah, that shot me right up to 60 FPS. Obviously I'm not getting 60 FPS at the moment, but that's mainly because I'm recording. I have OBS set to record it at 30 frames a second, because it would not record it at 60 frames. It was dropping me down to like 25. It wasn't good. So yeah, 30 frames is the max I can get while recording. But yeah, that's this project. I'm not sure how many videos or how often I'll do videos on this. I definitely want to do one explaining how the terrain generation works, because I think, yeah, that's worth sharing. But yeah, that's that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.